Good day and welcome to Rocket with Chief, conversations to take you places. I'm your host, Daniel Robus, and I will be taking you through an interesting voyage of discovery today as we have Christo Jansen van Rensburg in. He's an entrepreneur, growing businesses and hacking habits is his mainstay. Christo, you've got experience across the spectrum. You seem to have done a lot in your life so far. You've been a game ranger, you've traveled the world, and you've been in big business. You are now on a totally new path of being an entrepreneur, an investor, and a life coach. Thank you for joining us today. It's a joy to speak to you, and I think the audience will gain a lot from this episode. I haven't seen you in the flesh in 2022. How has January gone for you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel. Really humbled to be on the show, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So yeah, January has been actually very interesting for me. I was supposed to be in the UAE to go and have a look at what's happening over there and just get some stuff settled and sorted out in my personal life. But with all the strict traveling policies and stuff like that, I did not make it to the UAE. So currently still here in South Africa. And I use that opportunity to really focus on what's currently happening within South Africa and just reaching out to some of my businesses and clients to get an understanding of what's happening within their businesses. And I must say, I was astonished to see the resilience and the upbeat nature that is currently, especially in the SME space, that is currently happening with those business owners. And I can definitely attest to the same within my own business, shooting the lights out and really having a great start to 2022. That's
brilliant. What's keeping you busy right now?
So there's two parts that I would like to maybe share with you. Personally, I've decided to sign up for a mental toughness challenge this year.
Okay.
And it starts off with 75 days at the beginning, but I've signed up for the whole year. And yeah, it's completely thrown me outside of my comfort zone, and I'm learning a lot about myself. I think that the reason why I signed up for this specific challenge is I think we all say in life, we've got grit, and this is really testing, do I have grit and do I have the mettle to see this through, so the first 75 days is quite intense. Okay. And then after that eases up a little bit, but the intensity stays at the same level throughout the year. So yeah, really enjoying that journey. And what I've learned so far from that experience is that if you take a little bit of focus and a little bit of attention and you apply that into something that you would like to achieve, it goes extremely long way. So, I would say that is one of the very early takeaways within this journey for me.
Wow.
And it's still a fairly fresh journey for me, but really enjoying the experience. And I have to say, as part of the takeaway that I've just shared with you, another one is that you have to be ruthless with your time, both personally and professionally. If you're not ruthless with your time, you're going to run into issues.
I love that. And we talk about maximizing your impact and using your time effectively. People have this busyness where they're on the treadmill. It feels great being busy, but you never get anywhere. And that's definitely not your state of mind. You're always moving from one place to the other and trying to improve yourself both mentally and physically. Do you think that this year mental health and mental fortitude is becoming more of a customer discussion point? Is it being more understood and accepted? And why do you think it is right now?
Definitely. I think people are busy showing up, from a mental perspective, and I want to use the word vulnerable, but not in the sake or in the sense of being weak, but in the sense of being strong. People are reaching out, people are standing up and saying, that I'm facing X, Y, and Z challenge in my life, or I have X, Y, and Z, not mental issue, but issue that I'm currently dealing with. And, I'm actually not coping. Yeah. And is there a little bit of advice that you can share? What have you done in similar experiences? So, yeah, there's definitely this groundswell of people becoming a little bit more conscious about their own mental well-being, about, what's happening around them in their direct, circle of influence, and getting a deeper understanding of, how do we take that journey forward and be vulnerable and humble enough to stick our hand up and say, you know what, I need a bit of help here.
Boys don't cry? Fact or fiction?
No, I do not agree with that. Definitely, it's not about a sign of weakness when you cry. If you look at the neurological pathways behind crying, you need to get those emotions out. Yeah. So one of the good ways is to physically let the tears flow. Also helps you to clear your mind a little bit. So definitely do not agree with that statement.
Awesome. Us who are over 40, male who grew up in South Africa, this is a big thing to get over. And I think we have a long way to go in our peer group just to get mental health accepted. The boys who went to the army, how many went to counseling and how many are still dealing with those things from those years? But that's a whole different debate.
Yeah, no, 100%.
From a business. Go.
Actually, while we're busy talking, on the mental health part there of, maybe I bring in a little bit from the previous discussion that we had. The one thing, especially from a mental health point of view, that is so critical and what I'm currently focusing on a lot as well. I use the Pareto principle, but I've taken it a little bit to the extreme part there, which is the 1 and the 4% of what do I spend my own, and mental health is definitely on top of that list. On what am I doing for myself to make sure that I'm and like I said, mentally healthy and mentally strong, and working towards really unpacking that and get the necessary guidance and help.
Sure, that is so good. From a business perspective, are you seeing any interesting upswings in our region in South Africa, which weren't there last year?
Yes, I definitely am seeing an upswing. And again, it goes back to that consciousness that we just spoke about. So, the business that I'm involved in, there's definitely the owners and the stakeholders and shareholders within these businesses definitely much more conscious about, how do we take business forward? And I don't want to say the new normal. The only thing that is, constant in our life is change. So I don't want to, everybody goes back to, we've had COVID and we're now in this new normal, it's just change, and we learn to adapt, and we are extremely resilient as the human species to adapt. So this consciousness about, how do we look at doing business differently? And the one thing that is really standing out for me is that where individuals and business owners are really taking that ownership and accountability on themselves to develop first and foremost themselves, and that they are actually responsible for the outcomes in the business and responsible for the direction of the business. So really trying to understand and grapple with that, and then how do we take that forward, package that, and then communicate that into the rest of the organization and get everybody aligned so that we work in the same direction and achieve ultimately at the end of the day.
That's outstanding. I really like that focus on, it's just change. We've lived through this before. We are just changing. You stay ahead of the game through reading quite a bit. You had an awesome goal for last year regarding reading. What was it? And what was your biggest lesson from this?
So I initially started off to say that I would like to read a book a month. And then I read my first book in a week, and I decided, maybe there's more to this. And then I said, I'm going to read one book a week, so that's 52 books for the year. And then I realized, hey, but there's a little bit more capacity here. So I upped the game and I said, okay, I'm going to aim for 2. And then last year I ended up at 108.
No ways.
Yeah.
108 books. That is amazing.
Books, yeah.
What's your secret for getting through them? How do you do this?
Consistency.
Okay.
Consistency. Showing up every single day. I put time in my diary. It was between 45 minutes and an hour, and blocked out all the noise, that dings and pings we spoke about a little bit earlier on, and just sat down and focused on consuming that information and learning. So consistency is key. Show up every day.
And are you a visual reader or do you use audio? How did you get through it?
It is a blend of both.
Okay.
It's a blend of both. So I did use Audible quite extensively, but also do reading just to, obviously keep the eye muscles working. And it's a different sense that you engage. So, with audio, And what I like about audios is that you engage your hearing sense, and you are able to take notes, pen and paper on your device, be able to take notes. While with reading, it's a little bit slower because you obviously read the page and then you go over and you make some notes. So I am, there's the school of thought that, you need to use a book and you need to, work within the book. I like to leave them in a pristine condition for when I give them to someone else to consume that information as well. So I have always a pen and paper handy as well, where I take some notes on the side, so that the book always remains nice and clean, so that I can share that with someone else.
These 108 books, what's your biggest lesson you've taken out of them? What's the golden thread throughout?
Show up every single day, give 100%, and then at the end of the day, that will just make us all prosper.
As a gift to our audience, I'd love you to send us a list of your top 10 books from last year, if you can, and then we'll share it with them. Does any one book stand out for you? Or that's quite an unfair question. I mean, you almost need one book a month or one book a week. What stood out for you at where you were?
So it's maybe we can give it more than one book. So as part of the top 10, I will include that in the top 10. The ones that had a significant, profound impact on me was the book by David Gogging, which is that Cant Hurt Me. That is quite profound, and I have to share that the audio version is a better version of the book than the physical read. There's a fair amount of swearing and profanity in the book, or not profanity, cussing in the book. But at the end of each chapter, they dive deeper into the chapter. So there's insights that you get from the audible version of the book that you will not get from the book. But just showing, what we are actually capable of. So I really enjoyed that book. Another book that had a great impact on me was the book by Adam Grant, which talks about Think Again, or the book's title is Think Again by Adam Grant. And it's just, challenging our own assumptions and our own confirmation biases. And how do we go back to think again? So that was a great book. And then the one that had a deep personal impact on me, and it's been around for many, many years, is that Man's Search of Meaning by Victor Frankle. Deep book.
A classic, Man's Search for Meaning. What a tough read. That is okay, I'm just taking a note on that. That is a tough read. Wow.
And you spoke about, Boys Don't Cry a little bit earlier on. If you read through that book and you do not shed a tear for what this individual has been through and what has happened in the Holocaust, you are extremely emotionally extremely tough and mature. It really plucked on my heartstrings, and there was moments where I really just had to bring myself to the fact of what actually happened. And I think I was also very fortunate to be we went to go and visit Israel a few years ago, to be to the Holocaust Museum. So this book just had additional meaning to what I've seen and experienced there, and it is profound and deep.
Wow. We're going to take a segue into business for a bit here, Christo. You moved from a big business into doing your own thing. What was harder than you anticipated when you made that move?
So I did not really find it significantly hard to move from big business to into my own business. I think the main challenge for me was, and I think that for our listeners as well, is you are comfortable with the paycheck at the end of the month. You are comfortable on delivering at a certain level, productivity level, at a certain level within the organization. And the day that you step away from that security, I don't want to call it a comfort zone, but the day that you step away from that security, it's now all of a sudden in your own hands. And you pretty much determine, what is the path and the direction that you are going to take. So I think the biggest thing for me was to decouple myself from big business, to say that as an individual, I have got intrinsic value. And as an individual, I have got value that I can add to your business and to business as a whole. So I would say that was the biggest, mindset shift for me. to say that, you know, there's value that exists here, and then how do I go out into the world and share that with businesses across first and foremost South Africa, then Africa, and then ultimately, and Africa will always have a very special place and first focus within our businesses, but then to the rest of the world as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're doing a number of things. And I've spoken, I introduced you as an entrepreneur and a coach and all of these nice, wonderful titles. But if you had to explain to your granny what you do, how would you explain that?
So, yeah, it comes back to that, explain it to a 5-year-old. And that is actually a very good one, because it really makes you sit down and think about what you do and what is this value proposition that you bring to the market. So I would say that the essence of what I do is that I acquire a stake in a business, and then I help the people in the business to develop and grow the business.
Okay. Excellent. Now you're doing this and you are adding to people's businesses. When you stumble in your own, who do you go to for help or advice?
Yeah, so I love that question. We love to surround us with people that think like us and that, you know, will console us in the moment when things really go tough. So I am very fortunate. I have over the years built a nice group of people around me that I can lean on and that I really trust with my life.
Okay.
And they do not tell me what I want to hear. They really give it to me up straight as it is. And to me, that is extremely valuable. You know, I think it's easy to go and find advice that supports your own, you know, assumptions and that support your confirmation biases. But that does not help you to grow, and that does not help you to really unpack and dive deep into what is the core of the issue. Okay. And then you always keep, you know, your ego in check and stay humble and be big enough to reach out for help. You know, there's that proverbial or that adage that says that the teacher will show up when the student is ready. So, you know, what I found throughout my journey in life is that there's people with exceptional deep knowledge and insight, but they don't readily share that information. And it's not because they don't want to share that information. It is you need to be ready to listen to what they have got to share with you and that advice that they bring and insight that they bring to the table. Otherwise, it's just that, you know, you get those people that ask for a lot of advice and ask for a lot of insight, and then you share that with them, and then they walk away and they go and do the exact opposite with what you've shared. And it's not to say that they need to apply what you have shared with them, but, you know, at least give it a little bit of thought and consider your actions before you just go out and do. So
you plant the seed and you take your network and they give you seeds, and then you see what you want to plant and sow. Okay, I get that. I get that. When you are working now and you've gone on your own from corporate where everything was looked after, you've started your own thing. What is in your toolbox that's essential from you for you to be effective in business?
So from a psychological point of view, is to always stay curious. Okay. Just be curious. Just unpack it. Just you know, look at it from all the different angles. And the one thing, you know, with reading all the books, and, you know, I've studied quite extensively as well, and I continue to study. The one thing that I notice is that the more, and this is, you know, this is not my own work. This comes from people much more clever and giants before me. The more that you read, the more that you study, the more you realize how little you actually know. Okay. You know, and that is a great thing, because it just keeps that curiosity alive and keeps that curiosity flowing and growing and being really curious about where you find yourself. So from a psychological point of view, I would say that is definitely one of the tools or abilities or skills that you can own. Okay. And then from a physical tool perspective, mobile phone and cloud storage. If you've got those two, you are pretty much free to go anywhere in the world. You just need a good, you know, mobile connection, and anything that you've saved on your laptop is available in the cloud, so you can pretty much access anything anywhere in the world.
And the simplicity is it's enabling you to talk to your customer where you need to be. Okay, exactly. I like that. I really like that. Going on to a deeper question. What's the status quo you reject and why about owning your own business?
Status quo. So I would say that this is not necessarily just in my own business, but in life as whole, as a whole, where people say, let's not rock the boat. Let's just keep smooth sailing. Let's not rock the boat. I think that, we steal from ourselves when we don't test our own assumptions and our confirmation biases. And, the thing is that this is a robust process, and there is a degree of candor that this process requires. So if we want to move forward and if we want to be, bring everybody along on the journey, we need to just challenge that let's not rock the boat status quo.
I like that. You didn't just start your business and be successful. What's made it possible, but what was difficult those first 6 months?
So I would say that the thing that really enabled me to give up big business was the relationships that I've built over a period of time. If you've got good, deep, meaningful relationships, that goes a long way. And it's not just relationships, with friends and families, that's business relationships as well. So that relationships helped me a lot, as well as a network. And that network needs to be as, with as much and many diverse people that you can find being part of that network, and as much and as many diverse industries will really help you to just look at your business in a different angle. And I think that there's this tendency on LinkedIn that we just allow people to follow us and we just climb in and want to build a big massive network. Rather be a little bit more focused in your approach within your network. And when I accept that, how does this add to where I ultimately want to end up with my businesses and end up in life with? So I don't always accept everybody's, friend request based on, what does that look like? And I love hearing from people. So every now and again, I need to test that own assumption and that own confirmation bias of myself as well to make sure, is this individual going to add value and can I add value to the individual? And then the other one that is critically important is that you need to have that self-belief in you, eh? You need to have that self-belief.
Self-belief's a big thing that comes through again and again and again. I mean, you've almost answered the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Many people want to start their own businesses. They want to step away from the confines of the corridors of formal business. What's your advice to them? What's your 3 pieces of advice? We've got belief. You can't go into that one again. We've got cloud and a mobile phone. I love that. That's really good for a toolkit. But what is your advice of your learnings from owning your own business?
Perfect timing does not exist, or very rarely exist.
Okay.
So just get going. Just get going.
Okay.
And that might be, start with something small on the side, for side hustle. Get your feet wet. Go and test your business idea and your business assumptions with real customers. Okay. Do not go and test them with friends and family, because friends and family will always give you a biased answer.
Okay.
So go and test it with real customers out in the market. Go and have and get an understanding of how your value proposition will land. And the question that you've asked a little bit earlier about explaining it to your granny, make that part of your 30-second pitch when you speak to people. We all engage with people on a daily basis. Yeah. Put that out there. So I would say that is definitely one. And then if the immediate big jump of going from big business or from your corporate gig into your own business, see if you can't start a little side hustle on the side and just get going and get comfortable with the idea of working for yourself. It's progress over perfection.
I love that. So get going before you get good. Side hustle can minimize the risk to you if you don't want to dive into it. And perfect timing never exists. So test the market out. Test the market. If people won't buy it, don't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I really like that. What do you think the wow factor is that makes Christo an important ingredient in the team?
So I would say definitely being able to connect the seemingly unrelated. And I attribute this skill or ability to my curiosity.
Okay.
Definitely being able to look at things differently and bring something new to the fore, or just not necessarily new, but something different to the fore. And I would say that my second ability, coupled with that, is to build lasting, meaningful relationships.
Okay. Okay. So that human factor comes through again and again and again, enabling business through being human, because people do business with people. So, and I can attest to that. That's really a skill of yours. Christo, if you were presiding over a banquet and you were opening a banquet to South African leaders and business people, what would the opening statement be for 2022 as you look forward? What would your wish be for 2022?
I think that we alluded a little bit earlier on this specific point. I would say show up, give 100% in the moment, and be present in the moment. And I believe that by doing that, we will prosper, because we have invested in and immersed ourselves fully in that moment.
Okay. Oh, I like that. That's very nice. And do you think that there is a common problem that business owners from South Africa are dealing with, and what is that?
Yes, and I don't want to get into the circle of concern where we talk about government and policies and all of that. I don't want to say nonsense, but with all of that, because we've got no control over that. But on our circle of influence, I think that the biggest one that's currently rearing its head, and it's not just in small business, I think it's in business overall in South Africa, and not just in South Africa, I will even go so far to say global, is how do we take what we have learned from COVID-19 and the lockdowns? We were extremely adaptable, and we changed quite quickly to get people to work from pretty much anywhere in the world. And we managed to deliver results during this time of uncertainty. But there's now this tendency where we want to get people back into the offices, and we want to get our eyes on people. So how do we create, or how do we build, or how do we adopt the skill that we develop to really set goals clearly, set objectives clearly, and allow people to deliver against those objectives and goals? So it's almost like we want to return to pre-pandemic years where we want to manage people physically instead of managing the results and the goals.
I like that. So do you think that quite a bit of that mid-management or management layer is equipped enough, or have we got a lot of imposter syndrome going down there?
I think that we need to test that assumption. I think that it will be an injustice for me to say that I believe that there's a lot of mid-management that do not have the capability. I think that we have got great leaders within South Africa at all levels within organizations.
Okay.
I think as organizations, we need to sit first and foremost with ourselves and test when we ask people to come into this hybrid model. Why are we asking this? Why do we want to do this? I mean, if you go and look at the statistics, on average, people spend 45 hours a year in traffic or in congested traffic. So that is roughly 1 week a year where you just remove productivity out of your business. So I think we need to just challenge that thinking and that status quo to say that we need to have people around us. I understand the context and the notion of the culture of the business, and we are sociable creatures, but I do believe there's different ways of still having that within your organization and delivering great results without having people in the office.
Oh, I like that. The cultural side becomes quite an interesting one at how do we maintain a culture, and how do we maintain a culture that we want if we are remote. And we can dive into that at a separate discussion, but it's quite interesting how people are building culture in a remote world and what makes up that culture, and that around here we do things this way. Tell me, if you had to talk to a class of graduates. I know you're working with a couple of graduates, and you are going to be walking their journey with them. If you're talking to graduates today about them going into the world, what would you say? What advice would you give them from a world perspective of where they're going into of work?
Be open-minded. Be open-minded. And again, you know, potentially hammer too much on this. Just test your assumptions.
Okay.
And learn from as many people as you can.
Okay.
And that is not necessarily saying that you can only learn from learned people. Be open-minded enough to go out every single day, and at the end of the day, when you reflect, look at what have I learned. That can be something as simple as when you stopped on the side of the road or at the robot, and there was an individual running a small business trying to sell something to you. You know, you are not forced to buy anything from him, but nothing stops you to be courteous and have a conversation with that individual and learn something.
Sure. Oh, I like that. Be open to the world. So in this connected world where we are online all the time, you seem to be bringing back humanity, the whole. Is that quite important to you, these real life connections?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like you said, you know, with pretty much the world's information and knowledge at our fingertips, we are busy losing. This is my perception. We are busy losing the ability to really communicate with one another and have that meaningful relationships. And what you read in a book, an individual brought that, or what you read on a podcast or listen to on a podcast, an individual brought that to the table. And there's so much more behind that little bit of information that you can read on the net. Deeper learning that you can get to, and we tend to walk away from that. And hence why I said, if you listen to the Cant Hurt Me audiobook, there's so much more deeper learning after each chapter than just reading the pages of the chapter. So yes, that human connection for me is key.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As we summarize here, I don't know your world as much as I'd like to. So what is the one question you wish that I'd asked you?
And I think it just goes back to what I've shared with you. I would say, you know, what is the ability or the skill that we as humanity pay little attention to? Okay. And my answer to that will be the ability to clearly communicate with no or little ambiguity.
Awesome. Awesome. That communication, because we talk doesn't mean we communicate, is it? Exactly. I mean, we look at so many problems throughout our continent, throughout our suburbs, throughout our lives, which are actually communication issues, but we've been shouting at each other for so long, but no one's hearing anything. Exactly. So last one, take out your phone. What was the last song that you had playing on there?
So I do like Spotify quite a lot. And
not Joe Rogan.
No.
Not Joe Rogan.
Music, no, not Joe Rogan. Yeah, for obvious reasons. So the last song that I listened to was Shangri-La by Jewels Fantasties, and it's actually the Treasure cover thereof. Brilliant song.
Thank you very much. That's going to be my Friday playlist. Christo Jansen van Rensburg. What an absolute pleasure to have you in with us. Thank you very much for giving us a little bit of your time. As you go forward into your Friday, I know it's quite a packed day. I wish you all the blessings. I wish you no traffic, and just be wonderful. Carry on doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, and good luck with Technovest.
Thank you very, very much, Dan, and really appreciate the time and the great questions that you've asked. Also have a fantastic Friday and a great weekend.